Let this be a reminder to you all that this organization will not tolerate failure.
The side of the federal building has been blown off. Jesse?
They believe they were part of a CIA project called MK Ultra.
Just like a segment of society that is not living in reality.
In a certain sense, we're kind of a little bit more Israel's vassal state.
There are police chiefs facilitating prostitution networks.
Do you understand? It's all in your head. It's your move.
What up, what up? Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Dump with Austin Picard from the Underclass Podcast and Jose Galison from No Way Jose. What is up, brother?
What is
My
up,
God,
dude?
man.
Fun
Hell
night.
of a weekend.
Weird
Yeah.
weekend. I do want to say thank you to Shane, just in case he does watch this, but we did not expect to do a whole Waco episode. He mentioned to me, like, I swear it was like a half hour to an hour prior. He was like, yo, you guys cool with talking about Waco a little bit or something like that? You know, I was like, yeah. And I was like, we were originally contacted for like a program to kill type episode.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I was kind of in my head, like, I don't really know how that ties in, but like, okay, sure, I get it. Maybe we like probably talk about it for a minute. It was recent. They didn't do a show last week. And then no, we did like an hour and 20. And then I feel kind of bad because I guess I didn't realize that apparently that maybe this was they were planning to go longer in the show, because I like judging how his normal format is. He usually does 45 minutes to an hour and 15 with a guest, and then does about half hour, 45 minutes of like call-ins usually. And so like I wasn't expected to do 2 hours, and I don't think they even did call-ins last night. So I think that's why they went longer. But yeah, so it was like I was like, why are you squeezing so much in here? Like,
Right.
But yeah, so that's why I did kind of feel bad. If I'd known we were going to go longer, I would have prepared a little bit better, and I also would have probably been more. I was trying to intentionally kind of tease when we got into towards the end and we got into program to kill stuff, because I was like, yo, I don't want to do this, because I was like, I figured we were going to do it like 20 minutes, and it was like,
Right.
how are we going to do any sort of justice to this concept whatsoever? We did have a little bit more time, so it's like we probably could have. You could have
I
just
know,
laid
I
it out,
wasn't-
but I was like, I thought we were getting out of here in like 5 minutes. So I was like, do you really want me to give you a 3-minute breakdown of the program to kill
I started
thesis?
short-circuiting, dude. I started short-circuiting, trying to figure out the best way to approach this. But, you know, it was just, I think, a kind of a product of not quite understanding the format we were in at the time as well. But,
Yeah.
you know, all is well. I actually DM'd him last night and just said, I hope that went well. Well,
Yeah.
like, I
Hey,
appreciate the opportunity.
we've heard positive
He
reception.
said it was
nothing
great,
but
yeah.
it. Yeah, I mean, like you literally caught us doing a Waco episode on the fly. I felt a little silly because like I didn't have much to contribute, but hey, I thought it went well. I feel like I did okay color commentary because we just jumped right into. I wasn't prepared for Waco episode. But
Yeah,
luckily,
exactly.
luckily you usually always have your notes handy, so we were able to get by.
And it worked out perfectly as far as we had just recently done
Yeah.
that Waco episode, so it was pretty fitting. But
Yeah, and I was still able to kind of like, I guess, play the role that I play in the duo here. And sometimes, since we had just done a recent episode, there were times where I was able to divert the conversation to where like we want it to go anyways.
Right.
But yeah, it's it was fun though. I mean, it was cool that we did Waco and then a Waco program to kill episode. You'll almost never see that again together.
No doubt.
What an odd juxtaposition.
Uh-huh.
Even at one point, it was like, how do I make this transition? I'm like, I don't know, dude.
Which, by the way, I did have a much more seamless transitionary, a brief aside that we could have utilized that I had mentioned privately. But I, of course, lost that in translation when I was in the middle of my sort of schizo circuit brained, short-circuited, attack, essentially, on my ability to really kind of form the outline that I was hoping to pursue toward the beginning. But, it was mainly because, again, it was like I wasn't quite sure the time that we were working with, but
Yeah,
it
You'll
was
almost
still a
certainly
lot
be
of
on
fun.
soon. So hopefully, I mean,
Yeah.
I would propose maybe do that episode again because I do feel like it needs
It'll be fun.
it needs a I mean, maybe I think he said he hadn't read the book. Shane, I know Shane. I believe he's read, or at least is familiar with scenes inside whatever whatever the fuck the name of that book is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember the exact name of that one. But it's like, which I guess that's the common through line. It seems most people are far more familiar with that than they are with God. What the fuck was it?
PTK.
Oh yeah, far more familiar with the Laurel Canyon book than the PTK. So I think maybe just wasn't aware of it. Also, I think it's one of those things that like, it's one of those theses that when and I'm not, I guess at all saying I'm not trying to read Shane's mind here, but for someone who's not familiar with a thesis, I think you're like, you don't really realize how significant it is until you start digging into it. So like from the outside in, because it's like Program to Kill was always one of those ones that I was like, I'm gonna get into it at some point. Like I'd kind of heard about it for a while in the parapolitical sphere. It was like, okay, sort of interesting thesis, sounds a little far fetched, and it is kind of, but it's like, when you understand what kind of all that it's fleshing out and the larger kind of concept, you're like, oh fuck, by the end of it, you know. So like it opens a lot of avenues. So you're like, I think that's maybe that's why he like approached in his head of like, oh, we'll just put them together. Like, nah, dude, you need like a 2-hour episode on fucking Program to Kill. It's like there is a lot. It's dense. It's a lot of shit, and it can easily accidentally go down other rabbit holes in so many different ways.
No doubt, and I think that, you know, in hindsight, obviously, we would have presented Waco in a little bit more of, you know, a sound, comprehensive outline. But I still think we did well. It was just right on the fly. So,
and we already have a conceptual outline for a P2K, a P2TK.
P2.
I don't know, whatever. Program to Kill.
P2 is probably involved. All right,
exactly. They are involved.
100%.
We already have a conceptual outline, so it's like you're almost certainly be going back on soon. So boom, easy peasy. You guys do that again. You already have it ready to go. We're good to go. So I'm sure we'll at some point maybe we'll come back on together. I'm glad to see you're going on too. So it's cool. But yeah, it was quite the weekend, man. Wild weekend. Whew.
It's so much fun doing interviews with you, though, man. Like it was a blast going on Jake's the podcast. You know, just like I'm still reeling off of that. Honestly, that was such a good time. But it's kind of strange to be back, honestly. But
yeah, it is weird.
You know,
back
the
into
news hasn't stopped, brother.
Yeah, it hasn't. So it's gonna keep coming. You got to ride the wave, and we have another wave coming soon. Because it's gonna be another Jake episode coming out soon, and I think that's the one that's like. While OKC is like kind of my baby in a sense, it's like, dude, that episode's I think gonna go hard. You might even there. I don't know. I know he does the thing where like I think it pans to different people. But if you ever see me, I almost felt like a retard because I caught myself thinking like, oh shit, there's a camera right there during that episode. Because I think we've explained to you before, like the OKC episode with Jake was more my episode. Was probably far more me, you know, digging into it. Austin providing backup. It was the flip side in this episode, and there was. And I was fine with that. That's exactly how it should have been. And I remember there was like probably the majority of the time you were going. I was just sitting there smiling like an idiot. And then I'm like realizing like just because I was like, oh, look at my boy go. And then like in my head, I'm like, oh shit, I hope that camera isn't looking because I'm just smiling like a retard while you're talking about awful child abuse and shit. And I was like...
That's so funny, man.
But really the smile is like, look at my boy go. Look at him make these connections. Like not even thinking about the content. And there were a couple times my eyes got misty when I do get to thinking about the content again, when I'm not just like, yeah, look at my boy go.
Absolutely, buddy. Yeah. I know. I felt very, very much the same as far as the first episode with OKC, because it was just like I was excited to reinforce what I could, but in the moments where there was one moment I was just like, he's killing it. Like it was pretty great. I can't remember which part you were breaking down, if it was either McVeigh's connections or it was John Doe 2. I can't remember which one it was, but it was impressive. You know what I mean? I think that just goes to show what like. Consistently pursuing, your investigative research and like really rounding out, your understanding of the conceptual details. Like, man, you can become, you can kind of like
become an Austin in one little section of thing.
No, I just think it's amazing when you don't quite realize the depth of knowledge you've accumulated over time.
Yes, it is cool. I do like that I have read enough books, swelled in this information enough that is like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still do prep for these things and I still do try to be prepared, but it is like I am getting to the point where it's like it's just like that knowledge, a lot of that knowledge is just there. So it's just like I can kind of just, I guess, phone it in is a way to put it, but not I'm saying. It's almost like I know it's like my base is getting higher. It's like the idea of like like if anybody's going to Dragon Ball Z, it's like if you're doing this power scale, it's like you deal with the base level, and then you get Super Saiyan. So there's like, oh well, that's more of like a flow state. But even my like worst is becoming better and better. My like just fucking flow, like my just like not even in a good flow state, just whatever's in my head type deal. So, but we probably should stop sucking each other off real quick. And we probably should maybe get into content. We do have one last announcement. I guess maybe bittersweet, but I think there's a way to take this positive. I actually think I guess I'll go ahead and break it to them, and I'll let you say more on it. But Austin is no longer going to be with us in the sense of a showrunner on the Morning Dump. Now he may still, he probably will quite frequently, I would say, actually, especially if we have stuff together to do, like say Jake Shields or Shane or whatever. Yeah. So be joining the Morning Dumps frequently. And we'll still be doing Already Dead. So, and all this means for you guys is, luckily my schedule recently has slightly changed to where before, when Austin first jumped on with this, we were only able to manage, I was able to do 3 of these a week, and he was picking up Monday, Tuesday, and that was the deal so that we could make 5 days a week. Now I'm basically going to regularly have 4 days a week available. So we're going to be going essentially Tuesday through Friday, I think, with honestly probably frequently Mondays being a case too. So at most, you guys are losing 1 Morning Dump a week, but with that, this is going to free Austin up to do more of his own content. He's going to be able to refocus on his solo stuff, and on top of that, I think you were wanting to refocus into interviews as well. So point being is, you guys may get 1 less Morning Dump a week, but with that, you'll be getting likely more Austin content as well. And let's be real, most of you guys follow both of us anyways. We've been dual streaming long enough. So with that, for Austin's audience out there, I'm not going to be dual streaming anymore. If you do get any sort of enjoyment out of my Morning Dumps, feel free to go subscribe over to No Way Jose. If you don't, that's fine. I get it. Different strokes, different folks. It's very clear we've developed slightly different audiences over time, and that's fine. If that's not your jam, that's fine. You'll still get your Austin content, but just letting you guys know that's what's happening. So it'll be probably Tuesday through Friday instead of being a Monday through Friday show. From now on, it's likely going to be more of a Tuesday through Friday with bonus episodes on Monday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Monday. Honestly, you'll probably get a lot of bonus episodes for those because the way my life works is it's like I kind of pick up shifts occasionally. I work part-time. And I drive my wife to and from work. So the days I drive her to and from work, I can't work. So, I mean, sometimes there's rare exceptions, but I try to pick up shifts when I can. But I will be honest with you guys, the way this show is going, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised for the next year that we get to a point financially with the show to where it makes sense that I don't really have to pick up shifts anymore. So I'm just saying, not that I'm like killing it over here, and I'm not even saying that you even need to make more. I'm just saying that like once I even get close to like making, it's like, why would I, even if I'm like making half or maybe a little bit more half or whatever, just sitting at home doing podcasts as opposed to having to commute into work and do the whole hustle and bustle rat race. Of course, I'd rather give you guys an episode. This is far more enjoyable than that. But I do kind of like working somewhat. But anyways, but I'll pass it off to you. I think that's all I really need to say on my side of things. Don't take anything weird out of it. There's nothing odd going on with me and Austin. It's just that he wants to focus more on his content, and we were kind of thinking about it, and it's like there's been changes in our schedules, and a lot of it due to you guys kind of chipping in more has caused us to kind of me be able to do more, and so it's like I don't really need him as much for the Morning Dump as well. So it's like it's kind of a win-win in all situations, but I guess there's some people out there that might take it as a little bit of a lose. So it gets kind of bittersweet. So, but he'll still be here plenty of time. So
yeah.
Mom and Dad are breaking up.
I saw that too. Nah, man, don't at all interpret it as some sort of breakup in any sort of way. Like, and that was my main priority in addressing this with Jose to begin with. Was in no way am I attempting to make any less content. I want to make as much content as possible with Jose.
We're working on 3 series right now.
Yeah, I legitimately just need to reprioritize my solo research because of how it's impossible to balance in a sort of way with like still remaining to be consistently reliable for the morning show, basically. And so I just won't, feeling as if like I was giving you the example, like I legitimately have to finish 2 books by Friday for the Atlanta child murders, and that just stresses me out a little bit. You know what I mean? But mainly I think it'll provide the opportunity for us to kind of like, again, we can sort of, I don't know. I think there's really a perfect way that we can kind of continue to pursue, making content together and also doing the live streams together when I have the time, but also giving me the ability to, again, ramp up my output with the underclass content, because that is my goal. I want to get a little bit more of these episodes out. And because I have been kind of like hemorrhaging internally, like I'm losing my fucking shit.
I didn't really get a chance to mention to you, but feel free to, if at any point later in time you do want to come back, or if you do feel like you want to pick up days here and there or whatever. I mean, there likely will be, days, because I'm not going to try to ever make this a 7-day-a-week thing. So we always can go back to that arrangement. It's just that that's where you're stepping away from now. But you said you're going to start reinvesting more into interviews. And luckily, that's kind of basically been my whole jam forever. So it's like, any topic you want to tackle, I pretty much can usually set you up with people. Like, here's a guy to go to, and just kind of be helpful, kind of. So I'm here. Anyways, point being is I think this is a positive development. But sorry, go on. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, yeah, and the occasional live stream, I just won't be entirely committed to like as early, probably. You know what I mean? So like occasionally we might even talk about like, hey, what are you doing, dude? You know what I mean? And I'll see what you're up to. And we, it doesn't always have to be just TMD in the morning as well, as much as I'll still join and shit. You know what I mean? It's just like, I think it'll be cool to provide another potential outlet for us as well.
Yeah, plus, I think you should take up an evening turd show.
An evening turd show. That's hilarious. But no, I also do enjoy the idea that it'll provide me with the ability to have conversations that you've already had, like I'd said as well, because it would be fun to cover Columbine with Tim Tuttle or something, or like, just go. I think it was awesome having Dana on Already Dead, though. That was a lot of fun, and we need to consistently, like, that was my goal, is to keep pushing for, like, having Nick Bryant was like a huge, as cool. Far as me personally, it was like a pretty surreal, but
we probably always get him back on if we feel like there's something else we want to talk to him about. So
yeah, absolutely. But I just think that we, it'll give us the opportunity to refocus on AD as well in a little bit of a way. Yeah,
I didn't even bring that up. That's a good point, because it's like, we have been kind of slacking, I think, especially in guests. So between that and backing off, I think they'll refocus more guests on that. I think that's the move.
Yeah, 100%. But again, it's like I will definitely have to be joining occasionally, if only for my own psychological well-being, because again, we have to bring some brevity to the situation occasionally when it comes down to like the dark and disturbing details, which clearly I'm already reading through the FBI files with the Atlanta child murders, and I'm like, I need to go talk to Jose. Like, you know what I mean? But anyway, so I think nothing but a positive development, more content for everyone, and again, I'll be able to reprioritize what really got me here in the first place, and I think it'll only benefit us all in the long run, because I'll have more content to pull from as well, and going forward too. I think that'll be important. But there's so much on a daily basis that I'm going to want to address that we're consistently going to be talking all the time. So it's no fear there. But beyond that, I think we probably should start talking about content.
100%.
Awesome.
You lead the way. This is your last day. You're sitting in the big boy. The what do we call it? The host seat. Second seat.
Priority host, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I don't know what the terms for it is.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But so here's what caught my eye. Of course, off the bat was just this ICE development, right? Which clearly they inherently sort of violate the Fourth Amendment just by
it's been
existing.
A sneaky trend for a while, where that's like a lot of people don't realize that ICE has been for decades, and especially like if you live near borders, been passing sneakier and sneakier. It's almost like they're moving closer and closer on the borders with their legal restrictions of like to where I forget what the laws are, but I think like if you live so many miles away from a border already, like before this, that you're about to get into, it was like, oh, I think there was like, you could be subjected to searches, warrantless, this, that, like all sorts of weird sweeping, I guess permissions, I guess you could say, that have been given to ICE over the decades. Because herder my border, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I can make a libertarian argument for why border control is important, but it's or why it's, but I mean, either way, it's still kind of like, it doesn't mean I want to give away my rights to these fuckers.
Yeah, exactly. And it is strange because it's obviously just another justification to violate our constitutional rights. Obviously, it's a workaround, it's a loophole. But honestly, ICE is inherently as an organization infringing upon our constitutional rights. Honestly, so as much as people like to weaponize the immigration crisis for their political gain, it's again, it's what are you actually doing here? And as much as I appreciate property rights, it does boil down to some very interesting philosophy as far as how they exploit these ideas and to of course leverage it against us, and inevitably usher through the political victory that they are attempting to achieve. I mean, that's typically the case, and so just looking at this report specifically of this secret memo, which then went public.
Real quick, Bobo is pointing out it's 200 miles by a border or airport. And then screwed up, he says illegal immigrants don't have constitutional rights. I mean, like, sure, but I mean, is this only for illegal immigrants? So
yeah, because of course, like, this is a precedent-setting operation, right? This obviously, if you can't see where this is going, then you don't understand the true nature of the state. I mean, that's my only kind of perspective here, is that what can we bet on? Because 10 times out of 10, they're going to utilize these precedent-setting operations to their own advantage to, of course, eliminate our constitutional rights.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously
and
they're going to.
Imagine we can search your home because a Mexican's in it. Like, what kind of fucking precedent is that?
MS-13. Look at his hand tattoos.
Look how brown he is. Search that home.
Seriously. But I mean, imagine if it gets to that point where let's say you have a critical opinion, a dissenting opinion on Israel policy or something of that nature, and all of a sudden you take you're taking a video or a screenshot or a photograph at home and posting it on social media, and then you happen to have hand tattoos that resemble that of MS-13, right? I mean, who knows? Honestly, it's just hilarious what they could potentially utilize to of course, just continue to violate our inherent rights. And so again, it's like illegal immigration is not going to ever become any sort of like legitimate justification for me. That I mean, nothing truly justifies eroding those very fundamental rights that we're discussing about, just as far as
it's the same as when they go, but we're at war. You're like, okay,
yeah,
does
I know, right?
change
Like, I was
things somehow?
oh, for sure. I was reminding, because my wife put on the Karate Kid super late last night. I totally forgot that the story was right. That was it, Mr. Miyagi or whatever the fuck his name is. That the story was basically he's from Japan, right? And he was essentially a Japanese American who's living in the U.S. in like 1944, and he gets relocated to a Japanese concentration camp because they cannot be trusted due to the fact that obviously Japan was allied with Germany at the time, and so what did they call it? They called it a what was it? A Japanese relocation center, which is just a very dressed up way to say concentration camp. And the plot line was obviously his pregnant wife gave birth to a child and had complications at this concentration camp, and his wife and newborn son died, right? And so he was traumatized from this. And just for me personally, I was just imagining like what that would be like, to be at war, living in a foreign country, and your ethno state happens to be on the wrong side in terms of where you are geographically located in this moment, and so therefore all of your rights are entirely undermined overnight, and you and your family become prisoners of war. I mean, like,
It's insane.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I feel no national pride enough to ever morally, justify this. Like, I just don't. I'm not a nationalist.
Yeah.
I don't really care much about imaginary borders. I
Yeah.
care about my own property rights, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear
But yeah.
stories about them, like, oh, literal violent, if they're like being charged, sure, deport them, whatever. But it's like this sweeping, like, yeah. I mean, I've like, I'm like digging a theory and stuff myself. But even when it comes to the border stuff, it is really, from a there is no libertarian. There's neither perspective is correct. Like the only proper libertarian, answer here is, fucking, no state borders whatsoever, just all privatized. But that's not going to happen. So it's like, but it is. I mean, in the day, like I get it. This is a deal. So I understand some places were like, hey, we don't want these people, but whatever. But at the end of the day, like we're talking about, cool, that's all great. Like maybe deport people who have violent stuff. There's probably ways to do it without infringing on our rights to a crazy degree. But if you're talking about infringing on our rights and we go, but herder border, I just don't fucking care. Like I just don't care. Like it's like, yes, I get it. That is an issue that should be dealt with, but not at the expense of my rights. And like as Bobo was pointing out above here, I didn't really catch this the first time. He said that it was 200 miles by a border or airport. I didn't catch airport when I think we brought it up a minute ago.
Shit.
So it's
Well,
100
that's me.
Yeah, that's me. That's me. You pick me up from the airport. You're less than 100 miles. I mean, whenever you come up for
people in
Grove,
LA.
I'll probably pick you up from the airport.
Right.
They could literally do a warrantless search on any of us under some sort of fucking just willy-nilly. I don't know. It doesn't seem like we're just supposed to take the word of the state that they're going to have strong pretenses for these things. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not particularly cool with them doing that. Like I mean, if they get people to say like, oh, non-citizens, like sure, like okay, maybe, but even then, it's kind of like I don't know. It's still like kind of shitty to do to non-citizens. Even just the idea of a warrantless search on its face is just even from the concern of the cops. What are you doing? Like, why would you ever want to give any? I just there's got to be the situations in which a warrantless, like just busting in someplace is legit. Is I don't know. It's few and far between. It has to be very, very, very specific situations. So I mean, these sort of emergency powers is just insane, and they could go nuts with. So.
Absolutely. That's why
I would be interested with these warrantless searches. Are they do they mean when they say warrantless? Do they mean no knock warrantless? Because that's even worse. That's what I was getting at. For some reason, I was actually thinking it meant no knock, and then as I was talking, I was like, well, maybe they don't mean no knock, so maybe I won't be as hard as how I frame this. Because there's no situation, damn near no situation whatsoever that I would ever feel like a no knock would be appropriate. Like it just seems like it's just dumb, even for the safety of the cops, the safety of everyone involved. It just seems like a stupid fucking thing to do.
Yeah, 100%. And that is why I think that obviously you just see the what is playing out here and the kind of game that they are pursuing in really circumventing the already kind of legalities, right? The as far as just this proactive procedures clause that essentially they're just curbing and putting to the side, and as far as to obtain these warrants, right? So that's what I found interesting, was that essentially the process in itself is inherently corrupt, right? I mean, that alone is just kind of like a perfect example of how the state functions on a daily basis. So according to this report, though, it's kind of ridiculous that it was being done covertly until it was exposed to the public through a secret memo being leaked, right? And so that alone is kind of worth mentioning. But so it says the Trump administration has secretly allowed immigration agents to invade homes without a warrant for over a month, and that was according to this leaked internal memo. Let me actually no. Well, let's see. The president's proclamation under 50 USC 21 Invocation of the Alien Enemies Act regarding the invasion of the United States directs the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to apprehend, restrain, secure, and remove every alien enemy subject to the proclamation. Proclamation further grants authority to the Attorney General to issue any guidance necessary to effectuate the prompt apprehension, detention, and removal of alien enemies. This memorandum provides guidance on implementing the President's invocation of the Alien Enemies Act. This guidance shall take effect when the proclamation is made public by the Presidents. So,
Isn't Alien Enemies a thing from like forever ago? Like some like crazy like isn't this the one that's like some crazy fucking like 1700 1800s types like Civil War type shit? Like one of these things that no one fucking points to because it's insane that we ever passed it in the first place.
Oh yeah, it might even actually.
Let me look that up real quick. What's that called again?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see.
The Alien Enemies Act.
Enemies Act. Yeah, the Aliens Enemy. Yeah, Alien Enemies Act. AEA. That's so
okay.
crazy.
It was actually he issued an executive order on January 20th. So although I don't know if it was, is it okay? No. It's the Alien Enemy Act of 1798. I was correct.
There you go. I thought it was gonna be like Revolutionary wartime. Honestly,
the Alien Enemy Act of 1798 is a wartime measure that authorized the president during a declared war, or in the event of a quote unquote invasion or a quote unquote predatory incursion,
war, bro.
perpetrated or threatened by any quote unquote any foreign nation or government. So to issue regulations directing the conduct of or otherwise restraining citizens or nationals of the hostile nation or government. So it sounds to me they are interpreting this insanely liberally. Like, for one, I don't like this to begin with, but obviously it's sounding like it's trying to be very specific, like, let's say the Chinese. Oh, actually, remember that story we talked about recently about Israel, how they were using the kiosks in malls for their immigration?
Yeah.
That would be a perfect example of this. Yeah, that in that situation, sure, this act would probably hold up. Literally a foreign country invading, in a methodical, purposeful manner. But even then, you'd have to say we're under war. So even then, I don't even think that would reach it. So, and that was pretty flagrant. So,
right.
I don't know. This is pretty. It was enacted as part of a set of national security measures known as the Alien and Sedition Acts. Yeah, which is like one of the worst things that people always point to. I remember. Because that's what they're like day one libertarian shit. They're always like, remember when they did this? This is why Lincoln's so bad. Meant to address tensions involving the French Republic. These laws included the Alien Act, the Sedition Act, and the Alien Enemy Act. Of these laws, only the Alien Enemy Act remains in force. Actually, it's not. It wasn't for the Lincoln thing. It was for the French. So it was during the whole when the French burned down the White House and all that shit. So it was like, okay, they probably had a little bit of a point there.
Right.
It's wild they're using it now.
Right. Yeah. This is how you massage, your just as far as like in my mind, when you kind of witness the state's ability to exploit these measures, like it's just absolutely ridiculous, honestly, to witness them actually bringing up some legal act such as this. And this, 210 years ago. That's just one of the most laughable things. But of course, this is what the state is best at, right? Is exploiting these it's kind of like, again, right, the average person, their ability to kind of interpret what is playing out constitutionally in the first place. Most people are rejecting the Constitution, which is kind of become the new mold of the modern interpretation has become it's an old document, and they're sort of rejecting any sort of ethical foundation that it provided in the first place. I mean, what is what can they technically accomplish with that mindset? I mean, if you're attempting to kind of like eliminate and destroy the past and it's just like, at this point, I'm not at all surprised that the conservatives are utilizing this ridiculous kind of framework here to exploit our constitutional
start locking
rights.
up anti-Semites for fucking tying their horses to the wrong places and stuff, like some of those old stupid laws and shit.
Yeah, 100%.
That's literally what this is. He's like one of those. I mean, I guess not so much. I mean, I guess it's not maybe it's not as fair to compare it to like silly, stupid laws, because it was like the Alien and Sedition Act was like a big sweeping law, but it's literally one that hundreds of years ago, and we don't ever reference it anymore. And it was from a very, very specific time, and it looks like we were literally being invaded by the French from the north. So,
Right.
so I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe you could make a comparison to that in Mexico, but I don't know to what degree that's intentional. And if anything, honestly, like, you know, with the Fed stuff, I wouldn't be least surprised if it's far more contrived. And when I say contrived, I don't mean that it's not real, but far more of their own making. So it's like we're being invaded from the south by us. You know what I mean? Is my point.
Absolutely.
So in a roundabout way.
And they employ constitutional legal experts on a daily basis, right? And within their administration to attempt to see in what way they can exploit this to their own benefit. And these very much antiquated laws that are not at all necessarily viable within the framework of modern society, right? Like which is, you know, there's a point there
too, though. We keep in mind that we're getting these push of these stories right now. We're getting a push of these sort of stories of like herder MS-13, we're locking them up, and like, cool, that's great, cool. You get the fucking that stupid whore in North Dakota that's you know posing with guns and ice stuff, and it's like. So they're really, perception-wise, leaning hard into that. Well, I don't know to what degree that's real or not, and if they are, deporting violent criminals, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
But you got to keep in mind, we also have this dystopian immigration nonsense going on the Israel side of things. So it's like if pretty much anything that they would pass here would just as equally probably be able to be applied to them. So the idea that like. And I know these same people go, well, they're non-citizens. And you're like, okay, but we're talking about very different things if we're talking about deporting violent criminals and if we're talking about deporting people who went through what was the purported correct process at the time, did everything they were supposed to, have been acting proper. And honestly, I don't think I've seen a single one of these people so far that literally hate Jews. It's all like they just don't have issues with Israel's foreign policy. So it's like these are two very, very substantively different things. But the problem is everything that you're going to legally apply to this, these hardened gangsters or whatever is also going to be applied to these poor, college kids that are like come from foreign countries, studying here. Like one kid, it's like one of the kids that got they were supposedly supposed to be getting deported. His childhood friend got fucking domed by an IDF, and now he's over here studying and like has made a lot of himself. And so it's just a shitty way to treat people, really. Even if you were like, the Bill of Rights doesn't apply to them. It's like who fucking just is. Okay, was it just because the Bill of Rights doesn't affect? We can just treat them, do whatever the fuck we want to them? Like what the hell?
What's really gross about that perspective and that mindset to begin with is that a lot of these people are claiming to be philosophically opposed to the state, but yet how are you not realizing what you're doing here? You're rooting on the state. You're essentially defending the state's ability to enforce their imaginary border in this dystopian, nightmarish way. In my mind, it's just like, look, man, and to begin with, I don't agree philosophically with the state enforcing these imaginary national borders to begin with. So it's like at this point, I'm not even arguing that any sort of like immigration legislation whatsoever, because I am fundamentally opposed to this in general. So how can you claim to be an anarchist or an anarcho-capitalist or an agorist and root on the state to commit violations, outright violations that will only lead to them, cracking down in this dystopian way on domestic citizens? I mean, so again, it's just facilitating that totalitarian, authoritarian, framework to begin with. So you can go ahead and just, shout at the rooftops about illegal immigration when I don't think you're actually like contending with the root cause of what is philosophically wrong with this picture to begin with. And so again, it's like you want to side, you're dancing with the devil, my friend. You want the state to be your ally. Good luck with that. You know what I'm saying? Because in the end, they're your enemy, my friend.
Yep.
They are the common enemy we face. So when you're in that when you're in the FEMA camps and we're all just gathering together. The schizo bros assemble in the FEMA camps. We can have this conversation about how the state should enact the border patrol, right, in some sort of legal. It's just like, what are we talking about? Philosophically, it doesn't even make sense.
It's also just completely the wrong approach. Like, it's like, oh, why don't you call? Everyone's like, oh, you want the government to do this and that, and you're like, there are far better things they could be doing to address these problems. Literally legalizing all drugs, every single drug would do a lot. The legalized prostitution. I know there's a lot of people out there who don't like that, but are like, hey, whatever. I'm sorry. Be as upset as you want, but these, doing these simple things right here would essentially put these guys out of business, essentially. So it's like that, or they'd have to go insanely dark shit. But even then, I don't think they're going to have. That's probably more of a niche market, and let's be real, the state's already servicing that. So,
right.
So yeah, it really would just be legalized fucking damn near everything that they would be involved in. Like all the stuff that they traffic are things that are victimless crimes in a sense. I mean, I know you can say that someone's victimizing themselves, say with prostitution or something, and then but obviously I get it. There can be pimps that victimize their the people they're slinging. You have far less of that if you legalize it. So, and now you also give these people a legal recourse if they are being mistreated by pimps or whatever, and now they can go to someone and go, hey, this guy is beating the shit out of me or whatever, and that can be dealt with. Whereas now, a prostitute gets the shit kicked out of her by a pimp. What are you going to go to a cop and say I was slinging hole and my pimp beat me? Like, that's just stupid. You know what I mean?
And you effectively eliminate one of the most violent black markets and lucrative black markets, that exists on the planet, and that alone, I think, is the reason behind. Obviously, we tie it back to the intelligence apparatus and very much the pattern recognition of the gladio, as far as just, clearly, it's just, man, I don't know. At this point, it's very obvious what we're witnessing, right? And so I just think that, realizing that they are exploiting this black market to their own benefit. That's how they paid for it. What was Iran-Contra? What was, right, the Golden Triangle, scandal? I mean, obviously, they've been funding these illegal operations, these clandestine operations and black budget programs for generations through the black market. And so there's a reason why they kind of have an incentive not to. They want to protect their interests in essentially propping up the most sadistic, dangerous, and violent black market that exists on Earth, because I think that they are essentially running and protecting and facilitating that network and deciding who the winners and losers might potentially be, as far as like, you see my point, right? Obviously, it's just, when you can essentially set up the enemies within the framework of the network that you are attempting to, facilitate, then you have like, human trafficking kingpins who take the fall, right, in certain aspects, because again, it's like, what is government? The largest faction of organized crime really that exists on Earth. And so what are we talking about? We're having the largest faction of organized crime crack down on illegal immigrants, for what reason? To make you feel better about your private property rights? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really, I guess, to make you feel better about your taxpayer dollars, subsidizing their lifestyles. I understand, but hey, that's why I don't agree with paying taxes.
Yeah.
That's
also, like, reduce welfare. If you're concerned about them tapping into these social welfare things, aren't you guys against social welfare? Like, it sounds to me like, what are you, just caving on this issue? Like, I mean, it's just the idea that creating more, essentially you have two routes here. Like, we're essentially making the point here that in this situation, I guess you can kind of do both, but I actually feel like you're just creating more of the problem. You can loosen your control, which we've kind of made the case that I actually think if you loosen your control, like criminalize this, dial back on certain things that I actually think are kind of, in a sense, the root cause issues here. Or you can just continue to band-aid over the issue with more coercion and force, which is, and you can make a case that perhaps some of these instances of coercion or force may or may not be justified to some degree or another. But at the end of the day, it's still like you have two choices, and it's like, which makes more sense? Like one isn't going to, and actually I think the coercion route, like continuing to do all this stuff and cracking down, you're going to create other problems. The more you interact in the market in this sense, this artificial sense, the more aberrations you create within it. So we're going to create other knock-on side effects from every one of these, interactions essentially here. Whereas if we just stopped having fucking welfare, as Boomer even says, corporate welfare, if we pulled these things back, these would address these issues just as well. It's just the problem is that doesn't feel as good, and people want to say, oh, we're doing something, and here's these guys that just got the shit kicked out of them or killed or deported or whatever, and that's what makes these boomer cons fucking get a chub, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. It's the pendulum swing to, again, in my mind, generates support and manufacture consent for the authoritarian vision. And that's what people will consistently do. They've been fed, in my mind, a propagandistic line of thought, and they're unable to reject it because they've been far too conditioned to worship the state. So they fall and bend the knee. They bend the knee, and they support and essentially, prop up the state's power because it benefits them in this moment. That is the issue I have fundamentally with this process. Right.
Oh, we already listed the knock-on effects. I was thinking about it because I was like, oh, these knock-on effects you don't even think of. But there's very, very direct knock-on effects of this already. That literally whatever legal effects they apply to this, they'll apply in other situations. There aren't going to be these hardened criminals. And they'll be able, and they'll literally, I guarantee it, they'll be able to try to make the same exact argument of, as let's say with Palestine, oh, these are people, these are agents or whatever, or these are Palestinian agents, and it'd probably be almost maybe even easier since technically they can play this have it both ways game with Palestine when it comes to whether it's a state or not, because that's what they do. So legally speaking, it's kind of in this weird in-between zone that's kind of however you want to interpret it. So point being is that you could easily probably manipulate legally to go, oh, this also applies to this. So it's like, once again, the knock-on effects are pretty obvious, but I was more meaning even just specifically in the realm of, hey, we crack down on this, we do this, we deport this person. What other side effects does this have? And I think this is going to create other effects. But that's not even taking into account how this legislation can be applied in other areas. So which it was already there, but just the idea that they're using it gives more credence to use it again. You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely. I'll just finish a couple of notes on this, and then we'll move on to more pressing matters, honestly, because
I don't know if you saw, I accidentally brought up, I meant to bring it up in the background, but I have one ready that I guess Dave DeCamp just reported that there was oh, you want to bring it up now? I was just letting you know.
Yeah, you might as well, honestly. We've been talking about this for quite a while.
This literally it just happened, I guess, like a couple hours ago is what it looks like. Oh, never mind. It was 10 hours ago, but he just made a update on it. There was 68 reported now on the U.S. bombing of a migrant detention facility in Sada, Yemen. Another massacre, which a migrant detention center, I just don't understand. Like, I guess that in a sense would likely have government or military members in it, but it's literally it's a spot these aren't combatants. These are literally essentially jailers. So I don't know. I can't even wrap my head around what the purpose of this was. I know I reported on, but I reported on Dave DeCamp's reporting that I think last week that they did that double tap that in Yemen of that fuel port, which I thought was insane. And their argument why it was okay to bomb civilian infrastructure in that situation was because they use they get oil from there, so they benefit from it as well. So it's like de facto. But I would just assume that's what everybody uses. So like, what the fuck? That's like blowing up a Walmart because the guys who go down at the base also get their groceries there. You're like, what?
This is the one you're talking about, the port attack.
Yeah.
Look at this real quick. This is crazy.
And when I said double tap, they waited a significant amount of time, I forget how long, and then when rescues were workers and hit it again. So they hit the rescue workers, which is insane.
It's so terrible. Yeah, this was one I was going to bring up last week with you actually because it caught my eye instantly, obviously, and then watching this video.
I didn't catch the video, so that's new to me.
It's an escalation in the U.S. bombing campaign in Yemen. The target, this time, an oil port, where thousands of tons of highly flammable hydrocarbons went up in flames under a salvo of American missiles.
The missiles kept coming down one after another. There were flames everywhere. We came outside to find somewhere to shelter, and every time we moved, we got hit again. Our shelters were bombed.
The US has claimed responsibility for the attack.
US forces took action to eliminate this source of fuel for the Iran-backed Houthi terrorists and deprive them of illegal revenue that has funded Houthi efforts to terrorize the entire region for over 10 years. This strike was not intended to harm the people of Yemen.
Crazy, man.
So how can you say this is the idea of saying it's not intended? It's this idea, they play this stupid fucking intentionality game where you go, it's like if I fucking unloaded a machine gun into a crowd, but I only wanted to kill one of those people. This whole idea of like, I didn't intend to kill the other people. Like, if I'm a mass shooter and I shoot someone and I'm like, I didn't mean to kill that person, I think you would still get first degree murder for that. That's still, you can say, I didn't intend to kill that person, but you unloaded bullets in their direction with the intent to murder other people. So it's like, it gets bizarre. Like the idea that, hey, you're going to bomb a civilian area, like an area that like, was a known fuel port that everyone used, and it wasn't a military thing. Like it was, they used it as well, but it's as my example of like the Walmart. Like by the same logic, you could bomb Walmarts because like Yemen could, if they could get their drones over here, they by that same reason could bomb Walmarts that are near military bases.
Yeah,
it's like what kind of fuck? This is ridiculous. Like the idea that. I mean, sure, maybe this is some sort of military base. Like, I know on military bases they have fuel stuff because, I mean, you got to have the government vehicles need fuel. So they have their usually fuel stuff on a military base. Yeah. If that was the case, sure. I know Yemen probably don't even have military bases. But still, it's just, I just can't wrap my head around this. This is just nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And no one, I guess, I mean, every time I listen to Dave DeCamp, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I don't watch a whole lot of other shows, but according to him, he's like, almost no one's covering this. I mean, apparently, I guess they're not even, the United States isn't really ever putting out any of their own figures. They're not even really taking credit for any of it. It's just kind of the normal war reporting you get, like, of like, hey, this, we did this bombing, this many people died. Just pretty much just none of it. It's kind of being treated almost as like the same way a lot of these wars over in like Somalia and stuff get treated, where they get just not reported at all. Yeah. Not establishment. I mean, it's the establishment. The administration doesn't even put out figures like they usually do. Like they almost always in most, things. Hey, this many people. They announce when they do these sorts of things, or after at least. No, I mean we've gotten. The weird thing is though they have taken credit. I think they took credit for this one, and I think they. I mean we'll look at it in a second, but I think they took credit on the other one that just happened too. So it's almost as if they're only taking credit when they're like the most fucked up ones. You're like, it's just.
I mean, Trump straight up posting the snuff film, basically, right, of the tribal meeting. You know what I mean?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's par for the course, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating to witness, but yet it is, the concept of allowable opinion is truly moving in a nightmarish direction, honestly, when it comes down to foreign policy and kind of the ultimate consequences playing out due to Western influence on the world stage in all of these geographical conflicts. I mean, it's nothing but escalation in every theater of war, and we'll kind of get to that, honestly, because it's just like, what did we think? We thought that Ukraine was going to be the one. Mm-hmm. What the fuck is happening? But anyway, we'll finish this really quickly.
With dozens killed, according to Houthi sources. This has been their most deadly strike on Yemen since Donald Trump's return to the White House. The Houthi rebels are supported by Iran, and soon after Israel invaded the Gaza Strip in 2023, the group started attacking international shipping vessels in the Red Sea, also targeting Israel. The US have been carrying out almost daily strikes in Yemen for the last month. Iran has condemned Friday's bombing of Ras Isa port as barbaric, while Hamas have denounced an act of blatant aggression.
I didn't even think about the idea of that we're bombing their fuel, and I believe that was like, if I recall correctly, one of their major, if not one of their only ones or something. So this also, makes the situation worse there for them. They're going through. I don't know what the deal is, if we're blockading them or what the specifics are on that. But either way, it's like they're obviously being bombed to shit. I'm sure that's making it hard to get normal day-to-day supplies, carry on with these sorts of business. But yeah, they're I just thought that was kind of wild. Yeah.
100%, man. And meanwhile, obviously.
Oh, sorry, but I meant to say it was wild. I zoned out for the wild that now they also don't have fuel. That's also going to be contributing further towards their issue. So fuel goes a long way. So it's like they can't get to and from places, generators, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, Netanyahu, he's obviously threatening Iran, right? Saying that Israel will destroy Iran's nuclear reactors and enrichment facilities, as you had mentioned to me privately, which that alone, right, as you said it, I pulled up today's article from Reuters because it is obviously consider the fact that we've been covering the negotiations, you know what I mean, with Iran at this moment. And there have been reports that there has been some sort of production, some productive, movement in an optimistic direction. But at the same time, it's like,
sorry, I keep laughing. I can't take that retinue seriously there. It just looks so goofy, like these serious looking dudes with fucking yarmulkes.
Ridiculous.
All right, sorry, go on.
Look at this dude. But yeah, I just think it's very clear and obvious what's playing out in terms of undermining the negotiations in any sort of like real good faith manner. In my mind, it's not obviously playing out in that way, and clearly when you have Trump obviously claiming that when it boils down to his relationship with Netanyahu. I mean, what? How did he put it? He put it in the terms of we're on the same side of every issue. I think is what he said.
What he said recently.
And so, how are we supposed to interpret that other than the way it's sort of playing out? In front of us, and I mean, so
I kind
again,
of doubt that that's actually true, but at the very least, for the most part, I think it's true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, like, even then, it's obviously meant to show solidarity. So it's like,
Exactly.
even if it isn't entirely true, that's the sentiment it's trying to express to the world that it's true. So that's concerning at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
So,
No
although we
doubt.
have a conflicting statement, which we'll get into in a minute, probably. But let's obviously finish this point first.
Right. Yeah. So there was this is the Reuters report just claiming that Netanyahu repeated these calls for Iran's entire nuclear infrastructure to be dismantled on Sunday. And this is obviously during the negotiations with Tehran. And so the U.S. and Iran have so far held 3 rounds of indirect talks mediated by Gulf state Oman aimed at sealing a deal that would block Tehran from acquiring a nuclear weapon, but also lift crippling economic sanctions imposed by Washington. After talks in Rome, Oman said that the U.S. and Iran were pursuing an accord that would see Tehran completely free of nuclear weapons and sanctions, but maintaining its ability to develop peaceful nuclear energy. Netanyahu said the only good deal would be one that removed all of the infrastructure, akin to the 2003 agreement that Libya made with the West that saw it give up its nuclear, chemical, biological, and missile programs. Yeah, what inevitably resulted in Libya about 10 years later.
Which that's the key point. He's invoked that multiple times now, where he's invoked it over and over again. He knows what he's doing. The thing is, like, you got to keep in mind, I know we just had that statement, Trump says, we're on every side of every issue. I don't know. I am kind of kind of hopeful of these Iran talks, because this is kind of how this game always plays, although it feels distinctly kind of different these days. So I don't know. So I'm not like, feel solid on this, but generally how this game always plays is Israel, gins up some shit with Iran, and we always get kind of close, and then we find some way to kind of skirt out of it. So it's like, are we going to play this game again? I don't know, but just the fact that he's invoking Libya, it's obviously to stir up issues. The idea, and as Lawrence pointed out here, like how the fuck these guys should dismantle their illegal nukes. The very fact that these fuckers that have and have the absolute gall to fucking say shit to Iran about their nukes. Like, I get it. I mean, I sort of get it when you're like the hegemon of the world, like we are. Like, it's kind of like, well, I can do whatever the fuck I want, like, to some extent. And I guess sort of Israel is, but it's like, the idea that they're going like, I can do whatever the fuck I want, when it's like, no, sort of you can, sort of you can't. It's really we that can do the fuck whatever the fuck we want. And so it's like, even just from an ego perspective, you'd really just think like, if you're a herder, dyed in the blue, red, white, and blue type Star Spangled Awesome, you should be like, fuck you, dude. Like, who are you? Like, shut the fuck up. Like, you don't get to fucking do this shit. You have nukes. Like, you're not the global hegemon. Like, so, like, I guess in a certain sense you can make the case they are, but
right.
If anything, that goes to my point of like being like, yo, how about not be a bitch and be like, yo, dude, fuck you. You can't just like go around saying, oh, and everyone else nearby me can't have nukes, but I can. Especially given your national history, they haven't really been bastions of peace. So the idea that we should be, I don't know, it is like this mind virus that's perpetrated in boomers, and honestly, I still am somewhat infected by it, like, because it's like, even just kind of coming more from the conservative side of the aisle, just like from, it's not even like something my parents were super into or anything. They weren't like crazy neocons, just kind of generic right-wing people. And just kind of like, when Iran comes up, just kind of like, yeah, Iran, like they're the worst, and yeah, they shouldn't have nukes, and they're almost super close out. And it was just kind of but it's like, as the more I get the older, it's like, obviously I don't think they're like a good state. There's definitely no state's good. But it's like, I don't know. It's just genuinely this whole scaremongering stuff. Like, yeah, sure. I would prefer none of these states have nukes. I don't want any state to have nukes.
Right.
I would prefer we all denuclearize, but it's like, am I really, the more I think about it, the more I learn about this situation, the more I'm like, why am I terrified of Iran having nukes? If anything, it's, at this point, it's almost the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Like, for real, like, this would all be probably over if they're like, yo, just, that whole nuke thing? We've been just kidding this all the time. We have nukes. You should shut the fuck up. And then all right.
Exactly.
Like, I think that would literally be the case. Like, okay, maybe we should fucking chill, especially considering all the other leverage they have around the world. I know a lot of it's been kind of weakened all around the phrase, all around the edges by Israel, weakening Hezbollah and other stuff, but they still control a shitload of the world's oil. They still have fairly decent allies, and if they did have nukes, it would be like, yo, eat a dick. I mean, look at North Korea. North Korea is nowhere even near the global position Iran has, and they don't even really have nukes. They're basically in the same position as Iran, but while being like, we're cool with trying to have nukes. You know what I mean? Whereas Iran's like, we don't want nukes, but they're both in that like they have nuclear enrichment that's used for different things, and type deal. So
yeah, exactly. I think it just goes to show that obviously if you have that as far as that just sort of defense mechanism in place when it comes to your ability to negotiate your position on the world stage, I mean it's very important. As much as I don't actually buy the official narrative surrounding North Korea, it almost seems as if it's some sort of like nationwide controlled test subject as far as like it's such a strange
it's like a giant Jonestown.
It really feels that way, as much as it seems like a CIA operation.
One of my favorite conspiracies is that North Korea is actually like a utopia, just because I don't know, I've heard that conspiracy before. It's like, this is just them lying to, they're just lying to you, because it's like,
that's hilarious.
I don't believe that, but it's also like, it totally could.
Yeah,
because it's like, I mean, obviously I don't think like economically it could, but like if theoretically, I guess there's a somehow, if this could be, maybe they're siphoning Fed money from all over the world to here, and it's like, it's actually like super duper, like it's like what the flat earthers, or like what the Nazi whatever, or the Antarctic Nazi people think is going on down there is really just like North Korea.
That's so funny.
Like it says futures, it could be, like, who knows? I mean, like, the only information we get out of there is from governments and then from defectors, which there are few and far between, and they're all immediately have handlers immediately.
Yeah. That one woman who went on Rogan, right? She was entirely exposed as being like, a huge glowing background with the intelligence.
In North Korea, they make us eat our children.
It's like, what the fuck is going on here?
She said that the one that I always find the most absurd is she said that they made them push the train to work. You're like, dude, come on.
Are you serious? Yeah. Like, could you imagine?
Like, I get it. Like, it's crazy. There's like crazy. Come on. Like, that's just not even practical. Like, you can't. No. I mean, like, I guess a horde of people could push a train, but it's like, even the most authoritarian country, I can't imagine being like, all right, time for work. Let's push the train. You're like, you'd think someone would be like, just walk.
Yeah, exactly. I'll never forget that old Vice series back in the day when Shane Smith was still doing it, and he like went to some Siberian labor camp in Russia, and allegedly, and it was all set up like it was through a trade deal with Kim Jong Il, right? I think that was Kim Jong Un's father, and yeah, they had set up this like trade deal negotiation with Russia, and essentially they were exporting their these North Korean labor camps that they were using for to punish any sort of dissenting voices or dissenters within the military structure as well. They would send them to these re-education camps in Siberia, in these labor camps in the thick Siberian forest. Like, it is pretty crazy story, but they have these structures that are built, these properties that are entirely the architecture is exactly that of North Korea. They have like all of it is in North Korean as well, as far as like the they every morning they wake up to the North Korean anthem, and so it's very strange. But apparently Shane Smith with Vice back in the day went and allegedly got his way into infiltrating this labor camp and as far as like the outside group where they had kind of gone into where they were working in the forest, like logging and shit. And he tried to offer them a beer and stuff, and then apparently was ran out of the area by a lot of the authorities that were locally in the area as well, who apparently were notifying the KGB. It's a very crazy story, but I remember watching that series like 15 years ago. It feels like basically at this point. It's at least been 10 years ago. It's got to be. But anyway,
said North Korea has been GMOing boars and letting them loose in South Korean cities.
Oh my
This
God.
is the kind of shit that I would do if I was a fucking it's an authoritarian dictator. Like, fucking, let's make killer pandas, release them in China.
Hilarious.
What the fuck? Okay. Geoming boars as if they aren't fucking, invasive enough and terrifying enough. Austin, I just realized we're like an hour. We're still in foreign policy. There's one that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Let me know if you...
Let me finish this
Oh, go ahead,
last note
Yeah,
on
yeah,
this,
yeah.
only
Yeah.
because I did think it was crazy what Iran's foreign minister said on Monday, that apparently Tehran was confident it could thwart attempts to sabotage its foreign policy or dictate its course, adding that he hoped his U.S. counterparts would be equally steadfast. This is apparently Israeli officials, of course, attempting to prevent Tehran from acquiring nuclear weapons, which is obviously a ridiculous assertion. But what was said, though, Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but what is striking is how brazenly Netanyahu is now dictating what President Trump can and cannot do in his diplomacy with Iran. This is what he allegedly posted on X, the Iran foreign minister, before warning that any strike on Iran would be immediately reciprocated. So,
smart move on his part. Challenge his ego. Yeah, which but it's also the truth. Yeah,
and you're dealing with, clearly, like, this is in no way some sort of like de-escalation in regard to, especially in the midst of some sort of good faith negotiations for peace. Like, I don't know. I understand like the art of the deal, but I don't at all interpret this as being the case as far as Trump playing 4D chess or whatever people like to imagine playing out in their naive, cartoonish version of reality.
I have something for you, Austin, that's going to put a dent in that perspective.
Oh, shit. Let's hear it, buddy.
All right, here's Trump. It is kind of, he is talking out both sides of his mouth. Obviously, technically, there's a different situation. He's about to I'm about to show you guys a video of him talking about Gaza, but it's obviously these things are interconnected, and it's bizarre. And also, we just mentioned the statement. He said, "Oh, we're on the same side of all issues recently," but it's like it's very clear he's kind of not. Although maybe, I don't know, he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. He's having these people in Iran doing negotiations with them. Meanwhile, he's saying, "Oh, I'm on the same side as everything as Netanyahu." Then Netanyahu is then using that opportunity to go, "Oh, this is what I think." Obviously, giving the impression, "Oh, this is what Trump thinks." So it's just we're kind of playing this narrative game right now with Trump kind of literally seeding out information to every, essentially area on the spectrum of options of where Trump is at. So really, Trump is kind of he believes all things. So let's see what he has to say about Gaza. He was asked about this. It looks like maybe boarding on Air Force One or a White House or something. But let's go and play this.
And that's good. Access to food, medicine coming into Gaza. When you spoke to Mr. Netanyahu the other day, did that come up at all about access to humanitarian aid coming into Israel?
No, Gaza came up, and I said, we've got to be good to Gaza. These people are.
I did want to focus. He just did say they asked him specifically food and supplies. Said, did that come up? And he says no. But I did say, we gotta. So it's like he's denying. He said they spoke about that specifically, but I know it sounds like he's saying, my overall sentiment is what he's.
These people are suffering. We've got to be good to Gaza. We're going to take care of them. There's a very big need for medicine, food and medicine, and we're taking care of it.
In terms of like opening up more access points,
Pushing people very hard.
pushing the Israelis
We are
to open up more access
very
points.
hard to get food and medicine into Gaza.
I mean, I don't know what to do with that statement, but that is pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty pointed in that he sounds like he is directly saying that, I don't know how you could read this any other way, that behind closed doors, he is pushing the Israelis to give food and medicine to these people or allow some to come through. Do I believe that to be the case? I'm unsure. I guess I could believe that, and I also could believe otherwise. It really is. I do not know what Trump's perspective is on this. It's nice to hear this rhetoric. I guess it's almost more confusing than nice.
Right.
So given everything we've talked about the past few months and all the statements Trump has made, I mean, hell, he's used Palestinian as a slur, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm someone who not opposed to slurs, but it's like, I don't know, that's not even a slur. It's just where they're from. Right. So it's just bizarre. So yeah, I don't know what to make of this. Do you have any thoughts, Austin? I mean, it's, I guess, good.
Yeah, I just, like, for me personally, it just feels like potentially it would be impossible not to hear the criticism. You're going to have dissenting voices in your own, as far as just your own base politically. So I would imagine just even for a political victory, PR wise,
yeah, he cares.
It would be at least worthwhile to offer and present a more, I would think, moral approach that it would, at least you could interpret it that way if you are more willing to and inclined to and would be in the mindset and perspective of wanting to support Trump as your political candidate, right? Like, obviously, I think that you're consistently seeing the two-party delusion play out, right? As far as like the individuals who are essentially putting their own credibility and integrity at risk in defending, political puppets, due to the fact that is basically the current system and the way it's structured is obviously like, you're incentivized to defend your choice. You know what I mean? And like that alone is a problem. I think people really need to separate themselves from that, even if they are participating in the system as it is currently structured, because I obviously choose to opt out. Philosophically, I in no way I think that ethically it fits within my moral foundation as far as what I would like to pursue. Obviously, I feel like I'm, complicit inherently due to the way that we have all been unfortunately coerced into not having a choice to opt out, but still we can do our best, and our best in my mind is to choose to be as unaffiliated as possible when it comes down to the political puppets at hand, because it is truly their role to manipulate, coerce, deceive in every single at least it's all a lot. Most of it is social engineering, culture creation. It all falls within those sophisticated measures and techniques. So I don't trust any of these political puppets, because I kind of view the unelected bureaucratic oligarchy for what it is. There's a shadow government, a permanent establishment, no matter who you're allowed to vote for, as we consistently point out. And so, of course, Trump would have to kind of toss around his political football in a way that could be palatable to a wider spectrum of his supporters, potentially. At least give them the ability to defend his actions. And so who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he truly does see what's happening, and he's like, "Well, shit, I should say something."
Yeah,
You
it's
know what I mean?
indicative of at least there being a large enough contingent, at the very least, out there that are saying, that aren't okay with this, essentially. So and some of the ilk that he would want to woo, essentially. Typically being like the right. So if this was just a simple left-right thing, he very well, I think, rhetorically would probably be pretty seated with, he's a Palestinian, these Palestinians,
right?
As opposed to having a tone of care here. So, but I think there's enough people on the right that are not cool with this. So I think that might be why we're getting said reactions. So I think that's a good thing.
I love so much about how it's so obviously it's really like a as far as just targeting and prioritizing Jake as some sort of face or symbol of anti-Semitism, like it's truly it's a case in point as far as all he's doing is dissenting against our policy with Israel and the essentially the foreign policy that they're pursuing in regards to these foreign conflicts. That's all he's pointing out is clearly immoral, and
he doesn't hate Jews.
You inherently become the face of anti-Semitism. I mean, just for having a dissenting opinion in a large platform.
I mean, Jake doesn't do any favors and leans into it, and I'm not complaining about that. I don't care. Like that's fine. Like if anything, cool. That's kind of my style. So, so I'm cool with it. But
defend against it, honestly.
Yeah. But he's had many Jews on the show. He said many times, I don't have problems with Jews per se. Like he literally is his thing is like, yo, like you'll see. I can't wait for people to see the next episode to come out. He genuinely, I was kind of surprised with I don't know if I would say emotional or I guess him having more in touch with his emotions than I assumed. I guess he clearly had a heart. Yeah, he clearly had a heart.
Usually I'm tearing up, just naturally on my own, and yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah. And just from interacting with him, I can just tell him he's like a swell guy. Like he's just like the nicest guy. Like his fucking his producer was telling us, like I didn't fly into Vegas, but his producer was telling us that like literally every person that comes in, like he's there waiting at the fucking at the airport. There's Jake Shields, one of the greatest fighters of all time, just sitting there waiting at the airport for you to come get him. He drives you to your next place, takes you out to eat, does this, does that. Oh, we go do an interview, and like. So he's like super duper nice. That's just what he wants to do. I don't think he probably particularly makes that money off. He's probably literally living off of royalties from his time in the UFC. So it's like he's just doing this for fun and because it's something he believes in, I think. So
yeah, it's obviously there's an authentic, like he's very eager to continue to
learn.
I think just grow his base of knowledge and consistently pursue a lot of this research because again, it's like once the veil falls to the wayside and you realize the current power paradigm we exist in you kind of have no other choice as far as like, are you going to turn that blind eye and put yourself in this precarious position, becoming very extremely vulnerable to false narratives and propaganda and become a part of the problem? Honestly, which is what most people inherently are, unfortunately, due to the way that we've been conditioned in the current structure. It's the way of the world. You know what I mean? And so inherently, you have to reject your prior programming, or you can't get back to base one or to ground zero. I would say just to inherently be able to pursue the truth in an objective way as much as you possibly can, while at least acknowledging your bias that you do possess. It's like those things are impossible to do if you're unwilling to even contend with reality itself in an honest way, right? Because, well, that would make, my political allies or my ideology that I've embraced and essentially as my identity, which you wonder why identity politics is the name of the game these days. I mean, people worship politicians like they're gods. That alone
Yeah.
That is the new age esoteric ideological system of control
labels
that we're
should
falling into.
labels should really only be used. I know a lot of people get ideologically married to their concepts, but really labels should only be used as a shorthand for those to be able to understand your beliefs. Because like I could rattle off a bunch of labels that apply to me, and even then though I have within those schools of thought have unorthodox perspectives on aspects of it. So it's like even if I can tell you I'm a libertarian, egoist, anarcho-capitalist, hoppy, and agorist, blah, like all the different labels, it's like technically speaking, like whatever picture comes to your mind, these are just shorthands to give you an idea on certain things that I believe, and they're kind of close. But it's like even within those different schools of thoughts, there's usually different aspects or straight up parts of the doctrine. Like I don't know if I agree with it or if I agree with it this way. Like so, yeah, it is. I do think it's important to question things. This is actually kind of why I like egoism. Like egoism is actually kind of like weirdly like a non-label label, if that makes sense, because it's like I'm not going to go on a side there, but point being is it is important to just kind of think about these things and not take things for granted. Now it is important to have principles and to have beliefs, but it's like, and yes, you may have thought about undergirding principles that inform other principles, but it's I'm just saying think deeper about things probably is my point. It's just, but don't be like, oh, I'm a conservative, so therefore I think this. No, like why? What are your underlying principles that you've thought about deeply and come to a conclusion about? Maybe you might even need to question those. But at the very least, if you're coming from a place of some sort of principle of some sort, you're usually good. And I get it, not everyone interacts in their day to day through this way. I do think it's important to kind of like read things and learn about philosophy and stuff. That way these are things you have thought through and have some sort of undergirding. Most people just kind of blindly just do the thing, But I do think it's important to just think these things through and not just knee-jerk fall into some sort of perspective simply because you're like, oh, I think this comports to something that typically falls in line with whatever label I identify with.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's why I reject ideology. So as far as just, it's become a part of who I am in a way to not be controlled by and limited by that perspective alone, where it's like, no, according to my ideology, these are the principles I uphold. Nah, man, exactly. We don't reside in the black and white as often as people would like to think,
That's why I like agorism, because that actually applies thinking in spectrums. Because I think one thing that falls, especially libertarian ANCAP types, is very much while I do think Murray Rothbard actually did speak on this, maybe I just don't think it really got applied to the thinking well enough, is the idea of like the crossover between corporate and government and I know people have been joking around about like the water thing a lot about in the comments, but for example, like the water thing. In that example, and I didn't really want to spend an hour talking about it, what I was trying to get around to, and we talked about on the phone later, is that like, yes, I might believe this, X, Y, and Z, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, this guy is not a private actor. This is basically the government. Right. Like, now we don't talk in zeros and ones, so like this Nestle creepy guy with the fucking Vril eye or whatever the fuck's going on here, he's he may have sort of somewhat be kind of in the private world, but he's also, I'd say he's probably more in the government world than he's in the private world. My point being is a spectrum. Now your little La Tienda down the store, like I guess you could maybe make some sort of argument of them being government controlled to some degree or another. But for the most part, let's be real, they're probably 99% private, 1% government essentially. Whereas when you're looking at this creepy Nestle guy, it's the complete inverse, and he's probably 99% government, 1% private. Same thing goes for Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, all these fucking spooks. 100%. These are government actors. That's what they are.
Right, exactly. The public-private partnership that transcends, the true, which really becomes, it's essentially crony capitalism in a way, right? It's just so. But again, it's like the ultimate point I was attempting to make, and I didn't do a very good job that day. But it was mainly just.
I think we were both trying to brush off the point and go to the next thing, and then just be like, but then not willing to accept the other one. Not
absolutely. And I think the main point was just that obviously, like in the dystopian vision of the Agenda 2030 and the Great Reset and Operation Lockstep, the goal is to effectively eliminate property rights. And so in that framework and in that dystopian vision, that is kind of what I was just like I was forming my opinion based on that inherent understanding. You know,
Yeah, it's a race to monopolization. And this is why I think a lot of people got freaked out when I say, yeah, water isn't right, because they have this idea that like, oh no, like monopolization. This is what we're always told about monopolization. But you know, the only way that monopolization would really even be possible, and even then I don't even know if it is possible. I guess maybe you can talk about like very hyper specific regional areas or something, but generally speaking, the only time a true monopoly is possible, if it is even possible at all, is with the government. Like in the private world, monopolization is a borderline impossibility. Like the idea that you can somehow monopolize an entire something of any sort, any market, anything, any resource, anything really, is kind of absurd. And really the only way you could do that is by robbing the populace in order to do it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So. Yeah. And even then, I don't think like usually it fails when they try to do that. Usually it's like it ends up stagnating. Something else takes its place. It may be something that resides in the black market, but it's something that takes its place, because monopolies don't like to stand. People like to take advantage of opportunity, and so so it's like people. It is like, yeah, sure. I guess if we ever did encounter a monopoly, it would be like, okay, that's an issue. But like it's like when do we ever fucking encounter that? And the only time you do, it's already government. So we're already saying, yo, government, like, dude. Like the idea they're doing anything, I'm not cool with for the most part.
100%. Yeah, man. Yeah, and but I think that is a very valuable point to make, and I'm glad that we made it. I'm just I'm glad we had to follow it up with an act, you know, as far because I did not make the point.
Dude, we're both spurred, so I keep being like, dude, do not make me do a fucking hour on water rights.
Yeah, I was like, how long have we been talking about water?
Because I'll do it. I mean, I'll go fucking. We'll go all the way down to first principles, and like from there, like all I'm saying. I'm not saying that I want to starve you guys or kill any of you, or if you came to my house and said I'm thirsty, I'd give you fucking water.
I know. We were talking past each other, but you know, it comes with the territory sometimes. But anyway, I thought it was hilarious. Bobo McCore, stirring the pot, you piece of shit.
Yeah, you fucking piece of shit. All right, we should probably get to some actual content. I have some stuff that I was looking at that you clearly have a lot planned. I have a lot for this next week planned. I guess a little just to let the audience know. I think Top Lobster and Raven will be joining us tomorrow. I think we're going to do a group morning dump. And I think just to promote Bro Grove and some other stuff. I think tickets are getting ready to drop here soon, so we'll have some more information for you guys. I will go ahead and let you guys know, if you're a patron, if you give me $2, you get early access, and this shit is going to sell out like hotcakes. I'm not fucking kidding. I really do think I'm genuinely concerned. I'm letting you guys know because I want all my people to be there. I want to hang out with y'all. And if you have any sort of inkling whatsoever, just pay me $2 for 1 month.
Do I need to
and
get
if you want to after that,
I want to know.
Huh?
Do I need to get a ticket? I just need to know because I want to make sure that I don't.
I'll put you on a guest list.
Oh shit! Hell yeah!
I'm just kidding. I don't have a guest list, but I think.
Well,
you'll
make sure to ask Top so I know. But that way I don't.
I would just assume you can, but I can ask him to be sure. I just assume you can. So I mean, it'd be wild if you flew out here and be like, "Where's your ticket, Austin?"
Yeah, you can't come in
because you will likely probably perform in some capacity there. So me and you, I mean, at the very least, there'll probably be like a roundtable event or something. I don't know if we'll get an actual event to ourselves. I mean, when we get closer, I might see who we have.
I honestly don't mind getting one just to support the event. I mean,
I mean, it really is where they need us. So, I mean, if we get a bunch of, we already have Sam Tripoli and Owen Benjamin there, and Shane Cashman as like the MC. So it's like we have a pretty stacked. We kind of have the headline big people filled out. So it's like more smaller events and stuff I think need to be filled out. So. But with that, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with more big names. And so it's like, I don't know if we're going to do any sort of event. So it's like, if we end up with a bunch of fucking huge names, it's like, let's be real. We'll probably just be included like that. I'll be in the Tower Gang event for sure, obviously. But then, I don't know.
Like, excited to meet everyone in person, honestly.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah. But we'll definitely do something. Like, I'm sure they'll have us in there. They did a roundtable thing last year.
I would love to be a part of it if possible. Obviously, that would be my goal. But still, super stoked to actually, man. I honestly do think Jake's gonna try and come, which would be so much fun.
He set up he's saying, I don't know if it's actually set up for sure now, but he said something about setting up an event. Nearby, that way you can get paid to come out to it. So
that would be the shit.
Yeah.
But all right, before we go though, this is very much worth acknowledging because I didn't see this came across my radar in the last 24 hours that apparently there's this merger between Alphabet and Palantir to essentially what was called FedStart, which I found like what was it called? Hold on, let me find it because it's one of the craziest names, dude.
That's
Yeah,
the name of it?
FedStart. Yeah, FedStart platform. So
What the
Alphabet,
fuck?
right? Which you already know Alphabet. Clearly it's CIA constructed as far as it funded Google
I'll be
and
honest, I didn't know what Alphabet was, but now I know
yeah,
it's
Alphabet's the
NASDAQ and
parent
Google.
company of Google.
Okay, the
Yeah,
parent company NASDAQ as well is what it looks like. So,
yeah, and has entirely it was entirely structured by the CIA.
Oh, I'm retarded. NASDAQ is just saying the code name for what?
Oh yeah, that's what's.
I'm
yeah,
retarded.
for
So I was
the
like,
company.
how the fuck are they own the NASDAQ? That's
Yeah,
insane.
no,
And I
it's
realized
the
it
way
said
the company's
Palantir as well.
listed.
I'm retarded. No, it owns Google.
You're good, dude. But yeah, Alphabet, of course, was structured by In-Q-Tel, the venture capitalist arm of the CIA. So we know for a fact that Google itself was entirely structured and by the intelligence apparatus itself. You go back to the DARPA LifeLog project, it's spelled out. And then of course, it makes all the sense in the world to have another conveniently constructed cutout by the intelligence apparatus called Palantir Technologies to merge and team up with Alphabet in order to obviously give the U.S. government a major AI upgrade, is according to this Yahoo Finance article, which really is just kind of like the original report is just again addressing the merger and the partnership. But these two tech firms are integrating Google Cloud into Palantir's FedStart platform to help federal agencies roll out advanced artificial intelligence tools more quickly and securely. So think Minority Report, pre-crime AI sort of authoritarian policing, right? Which also I noticed that, oh man, there was a report that said that the local police were effectively violating our constitutional rights by essentially utilizing this technology to their advantage in terms of as a surveillance tool, a warrantless surveillance tool. And so anytime that you're potentially prioritized as a target by even local authorities within the police, they can essentially tap your phone and record you unbeknownst to you. And again, it's like, where does privacy exist? It no longer exists. And once you understand this sort of total information awareness and this very much sophisticated new rollout, right? That's very much and it's the sort of the framework of mass surveillance, where essentially even the local authorities can utilize this technology to have a bird's eye view and see through the walls into your private residence and actually view you naked, just going through your normal process, living your life. So that alone I found very interesting. I should have bookmarked that article that I found the other day that was talking about utilizing your phone technology and how this is
and then
becoming
combining that with AI, it sounds like, which
Exactly.
is creepy. Like the AI, it's already creepy the searching it, but now they're outsourcing the thinking and wide to AI, which that's creepy on its own. But even just from a let's just assume somehow this is all being done for proper law enforcement stuff. Just the idea of it being AI. I mean, I've actually becoming more and more to where I'm using AI more and more. It's very helpful as an interviewer. Hey, give me a summation of this thing, that thing. Kind of give me if I'm bringing on somebody for a topic I don't know. But the thing is, you do have to reread it all and make sure it comports. Because I'll use it, let's say I'll use Grok and be like, give me a breakdown of this thing, and it'll be stuff that I've studied before. So it's I'm able to read through it and go, yeah, that checks with what I know. So, but I read through it, verify real quick, because it's I was going to verify every little aspect of it, but it's stuff I'm somewhat familiar with, so I'm kind of hip to where if it's bullshit. But if you're someone who doesn't know anything, let's say you look up a thing, say, tell me about the Dutroux affair or something, and you've never read up on it or anything, it's likely to fuck up some stuff. I'd say it's usually pretty accurate, but it's little things can throw it off because it's and I guess you could probably make the case it's better than humans, but the problem is people have this idea that it's AI, so it's perfect, and so it gives us this idea of I don't need to apply any sort of critical thinking for this. And it gives this impression, I think, to the general public that like, oh, if we're using AI to find criminals, that's got to be good. I guess this kind of comes back to our point with like we were talking about with the whole like, the warrantless searches and stuff. Like, oh, like what? Okay, we outsource this to AI now, and so like all your concerns are alleviated. And you're like, I don't know about that. For one, I don't trust the source code of it. But then even then, it's like, it gets things wrong. It doesn't have someone proofread it.
Insulate yourself from real accountability.
Yep.
Right? Because again, it's like you can sort of blame the AI algorithm or the AI overlord in a certain way. Oh my God, this specific a version of, like, again, it's just to me it provides a justification. It provides this sort of again a measure of remaining insulated from accountability. As I said, I was really the best way to put it, honestly. But you consider what it's even called. Like they do not give a shit when it comes down to just like, I think it's hilarious that you still have like Anduril and Palantir Technologies. Like their names are so symbolic and strange, right? But not at all by accident. And it seems like they're just absolute nerds who enjoy coming up with these terms. You know what I mean? Like, I forgot what the actual MK Ultra the name of the MK Ultra Spellbinder. It was a part of the MK Ultra project that I didn't realize that was the name of
Operation Spellbinder.
Dude, yes, isn't that a crazy name?
It's a cool
and
name.
Apparently
actually. I'll give 'em
Spellbinder. Yeah, I found out that this was one of the sub-projects of MK Ultra, right? Which obviously you had Monarch and MK Search, and but Operation Spellbinder was set up to create sleeper assassins, Manchurian candidates, who could be activated upon receiving a keyword or phrase while in a post-hypnotic trance. Operation Often, study which attempted to harness the power of occult forces, was possibly one of several cover programs to hide the insidious reality of Project Monarch. And then, of course, Artichoke, MK Naomi, and MK Delta and Bluebird. But it's like I was doing another dive on MK Ultra, and I was like blown away at some of the real documentation that proves out the Manchurian process. But anyway,
the line of studying you're doing right now really does butt up against Monarch shit like hardcore. So it is like you're probably seeing glimpses of that throughout all of your work. Because Monarch, much like the Program to Kill thesis, like the Monarch thesis and the Program to Kill thesis, I feel like are both kind of the ones that kind of just peek through occasionally. They're the ones you're like, is that really? Like, because they're ones that like it's such a high level of like, holy shit, that's spooky, that like, let's be real, what kind of information you're really going to get from that? I mean, you can throw together disparate information and kind of make that case, much like you can with Program to Kill, but it just kind of it peeks at you. It just
I know, man.
Just like it's a little eye poking through the curtain. That's it. Just a tiny. That's all it is. But you're like, I see you, bitch.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm trying so hard to kind of like trace this, but yeah, it's a fascinating thing to research. But anyway, final point on this though is FedStart is allegedly Palantir's way of making it easier for government departments to adopt private sector software without getting bogged down in red tape. So again, it's like another way to, you remember how HHS, right, it is sort of streamlining this ability to sort of circumvent regulatory practices with new pharmaceutical products that are very much kind of in their infancy in many ways, as if it's more of an experimental drug, and now it's being greenlit in this process that's extremely obviously being streamlined for the pharmaceutical companies in general. Which that alone, I thought that RFK Jr. was going to target and prioritize big pharma. And what happened to the ads? What weren't they going to be? And then the cash, the check cashed, I would imagine is probably the scenario that played out. But
some Jew said otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so the goal here is apparently by bringing in Google Cloud, the platform now has more muscle behind it, combining robust infrastructure with strict compliance features. One standout element of the collaboration is the integration of Cloud, the AI model from Anthropic, which will run on Google Cloud. It's designed to tackle large-scale government work like crunching complex data and solving strategic problems. The timing's interesting. Alphabet is set to report its Q1 earnings today. Wall Street is looking for earnings per share of $2 and revenue of $89.18 billion, both showing solid growth from last year. Investors liked the news, and Palantir stock happened to jump 7%, while Alphabet's rose about 3% in Wednesday's trading. So, again, you have obviously the true. I'm still not certain how much Peter Thiel is, acting on his own. As far as like, I'm not sure how many of these personalities have truly been manufactured and put into place as far as just opportunistic and in their way of fundamentally facilitating this new structured system. But obviously they're not acting on their own behalf solely. And this is clearly a network that is pursuing an agenda. And so that alone, I find,
These are government contracts.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this is enough. This is a government contract by a government contractor. Like that's what this is. Yeah, it's Peter Thiel, but this dude is these are government actors. I mean, I'm getting really sick. I don't know. I'm just getting. I don't know. I get tired of like, especially like many of the people within our kind of sphere. It's just they get so. Oh, look at the Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. They're like.
Oh shit! What is going on here? Yo, dude. Can you guys hear Jose? Because he is gone, as far as I'm concerned. I haven't heard a word from him. Let me know if that's me and it's actually my connection, because otherwise, it looks like I'm good on my end. Is the sound back, or are you just hearing me? Because I still can't hear Jose. Yeah, he's frozen. Yep. See ya, buddy. Son of a bitch. I was hoping that it was on my end, which is why I didn't say anything. But he'll be back here in a second. But until that time, there was one other story that I wanted to actually address, which I had brought up as well, which at least in the title, and that was Israel's apparent. Awesome, thank you guys. But Israel's apparent AI experiments in Gaza are raising ethical concerns, and it's a little too long to get deeply into the details, but still it's worth acknowledging, because obviously they're developing this new artificial intelligence as far as the tools they're utilizing in the Gaza war, and the technologies have apparently led to fatal consequences, obviously. And so Israel was aiming to assassinate Ibrahim Biari, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, in late 2023, a top Hamas commander in the northern Gaza Strip who had helped plan the October 7 massacres. But Israeli intelligence could not find Mr. Biari, who they believed was hidden in the network of tunnels underneath Gaza. So Israeli officers turned to a new military technology infused with artificial intelligence. 3 Israeli and American officials briefed on the events said the technology was developed a decade earlier, but had not been used in battle. Finding Mr. Biari provided new incentive to improve the tool. So engineers in Israel's Unit 8200, the country's equivalent of the National Security Agency, soon integrated this AI into it. And shortly thereafter, Israel listened to Mr. Biari's calls and tested the AI audio tool, which gave an approximate location for where he was making his calls. Using that information, Israel ordered airstrikes to target the area on October 31st, killing Mr. Biari. More than 125 civilians also died in the attack, according to Air Wars. So the audio tool was just one example of how Israel has used the war in Gaza to rapidly test and deploy AI-backed military. Hold on. Jose just texted me. His internet decided to completely shit the bed. So there we go. Who knows if he's gonna make it back? But after a couple of minutes discussing this, we'll probably end up. He's sending photo documentation of his router. Anyway, so we'll finish this discussion and then get out of here. But I know, man, my boy's gone. But anyway, so let's see. AI-backed military technologies. So it looks like Israel has used the war in Gaza, obviously, to rapidly test and deploy these AI-backed military technologies to a degree that had not been seen before. So, according to interviews with 9 American and Israeli defense officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity because the work is confidential, I'm sure there's other reasons for that. Yeah, Peter Thiel got him. He shouldn't have been talking about the public-private partnership, man. So, in the past 18 months, Israel has also combined AI with facial recognition software to match partly obscured or injured faces to real identities, turned to AI to compile potential airstrike targets, and created an Arabic language AI model to power a chatbot that could scan and analyze text messages, social media posts, and other Arabic language data. And many of these efforts were a partnership between enlisted soldiers in Unit 8200 and reserve soldiers who work at tech companies such as Google, Microsoft, and Meta. 3 people with knowledge of the technologies said. So Unit 8200 set up what became known as the Studio, an innovation hub and place to match experts with AI projects. Yet even as Israel raced to develop the AI arsenal, deployment of the technologies sometimes led to mistaken identifications and arrests, as well as civilian deaths, the Israeli and American officials claimed. So some officials have struggled with the ethical implications of the AI tools, which could result in increased surveillance and other civilian killings. No other nation has been as active as Israel in experimenting with AI tools in real-time battles. European and American defense officials claimed this and giving a preview of how such technologies may be used in future wars and how they might also go awry. So the urgent need to cope with the crisis accelerated innovation, much of it AI-powered. And this is according to Hadass Lorber, the head of the Institute for Applied Research and Responsible AI at Israel's Holon Institute of Technology, and a former senior director of the Israeli National Security Council. It led to game-changing technologies on the battlefield and advantages that proved critical in combat. But the technologies also raised serious ethical questions, Miss Lorber said. Oh, it's Miss Lorber. She warned that AI needs checks and balances, adding that humans should make the final decisions. A spokeswoman for Israel's military said she could not comment on specific technologies because of their confidential nature. Israel is committed to the lawful and responsible use of data technology tools, she said, adding that the military was investigating the strike on Mr. Biari and was unable to provide any further information until the investigation is complete. Meta and Microsoft declined to comment. Google said it has employees who do reserve duty in various countries around the world. The work those employees do as reservists is not connected to Google. Israel previously used conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon to experiment with and advanced tech tools for its military, such as drones, phone hacking tools, and the Iron Dome defense system, which can help intercept short-range ballistic missiles. So we're in the dystopian nightmare. I mean, this is honestly, I mean, at this point, if we're utilizing, this artificial intelligence technology to legitimately commit war crimes, well, using scorched earth policy in Gaza, then, I think we are officially in that dystopian nightmare. So I don't know, man. At this point, Jose, you bastard. The internet just completely pooped the bed. So, all right, guys, nothing but love. I should probably jet. I know we have much more we could discuss, and clearly, I had also brought, some things on Virginia Guthrie, but we'll have that conversation later. I discovered something called the Pottinger ultimatum. Pottinger, and Johnny Vedmore had run a piece on this. and it's very interesting. It talks about J. Stanley Pottinger and how he's basically, essentially, he was an intelligence connected CIA operative who basically, connects back to a lot of these scandalous cases and over time in the recent past, and apparently was kind of sent in a way. He was sent by the agency to sort of run legal representation for these well-known Epstein victims, and in many ways, seemingly, exploited them and leveraged this strange dynamic and relationship to the benefit of the intelligence apparatus and their human compromise operations. So I'm very much more considering that there was obviously a concerted effort to infiltrate the defense teams or of these alleged victims, and who knows what the priority or as far as the ultimate goal was, other than to, of course, facilitate a cover up. I think there's even more consequential claims and allegations that that are truly kind of worthwhile and at least considering. So is he doing a premiere? I think it's obviously one of his solo episodes or interviews that's most likely premiering right now at 9. Yeah. But anyway, all right, guys, nothing but love. You know this. I'm working on the Atlanta child murders right now. I have to read a couple of books by Friday and get my conceptual story kind of put into its proper place, and then we'll finally have another solo episode out. So, but yeah, beyond that, guys, go check out Jose's episode that's dropping right now. Keep your eyes peeled for a lot more content coming from both of us, and then also tune in tomorrow. Obviously, NDS coming on top, and Raven is coming on tomorrow morning to discuss Bohemian Grove with Jose, and so tune in for all those updates, and then also don't miss Already Dead, man. We're gonna have a lot of fun tomorrow, and actually get into some real, interesting topics. So we won't do as much just casual conversation, but hey, nothing but love for you guys. You know this. Appreciate you. Thank you, man. Appreciate you, Bobo McCoy. I didn't mean it earlier. All right. All right, guys. I love you guys. Again, you know where to support me. The Underclass Podcast on Patreon. And I'm sure we'll be doing another whatever this is in the next couple of days as well. So you'll get some more of that content too. So, and then, Jake Shields, that episode, the additional episode that we did with Jake should be dropping within a couple of weeks too. So not sure what the actual date will be when it'll be published, but either way, keep your eyes peeled as well. So love you guys. Have a great Monday. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will catch you tomorrow.